morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and coming up on the show today, the UN Security Council is set to vote on Friday on a Bahraini proposal that would authorize countries to use all defensive means which are necessary to secure the Strait of Hormuz. More than 40 countries attended a virtual meeting to discuss reopening the waterway as US President Donald Trump rails against allies over their handling on the issue. We're going to get you all the details on the show today. Stay tuned.
Well, also on the show, NASA's Artemis 2 mission has taken a historic leap. 4 astronauts have fired up the Orion spacecraft and broken free from Earth's orbit, heading towards the moon. And it marks the first crewed lunar flyby in over 50 years, with the team now on a 3-day journey to loop around the Earth's natural satellite. We'll get you all the details on that. Let's first quickly look at the headlines at this hour first.
Iran says at least 8 people have died while nearly hundreds are injured after US military struck a bridge connecting Karachi and Tehran. President Trump earlier boasted about the attack, warning Tehran that there was much more to follow.
Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched a fresh wave of attacks on American steel factories in the UAE and Bahrain, as well as an arms factory in Israel. Iran says latest salvos are in response to attacks on its own steel industries.
Pentagon says Army Chief of Staff General Randy George is retiring from his position. The announcement came after reports emerged that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has asked George to leave his post.
U.S. President Donald Trump fires Attorney General Pam Bondi. Her deputy Todd Blanche, Trump's former lawyer, will step in to serve as acting Attorney General.
Artemis 2 astronauts fired their engines to zoom towards the moon after spending a day around Earth. The Orion capsule engine blasted the astronauts towards the moon, which they will now loop as part of the 10-day mission.
Trump has announced new tariffs, including up to 100% on imported drugs and revised duties on metals like steel and aluminium. The move is aimed at boosting domestic manufacturing, but is raising concerns about higher costs and potential trade tensions. And it's day 35 of the war in West Asia. The U.S. military has attacked major civilian infrastructure in Iran for the first time.
And this is hours after President Trump threatened in a press time address to warn the country back to the Stone Ages. Now, Iran has hit back with strikes across the Gulf and in Israel. Let's quickly take a look at the top developments. Now, Iran says its latest wave of attacks struck targets in the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Israel. According to an IRGC statement, targets included American steel industries in Abu Dhabi, American aluminum industries in Bahrain, and the Rafale arm factories in Israel.
Iran also fired missiles at Tel Aviv, triggering Israeli air defenses and leaving 4 people lightly wounded, while fresh blasts were heard in Jerusalem after the military warned of incoming fire.
US President Donald Trump claimed responsibility for destroying Iran's largest bridge, and this a day after he threatened to warm the country back to the Stone Ages. The US President shared footage of part of the newly built suspension bridge between Tehran and Karaj collapsing dramatically. According to Iran state media, 8 people were killed and 95 wounded.
The UN Security Council is set to vote Friday on embodying a proposal that would authorize countries to use all defensive means necessary to secure the Strait of Hormuz. A New York Times report says Russia, China, and France are blocking the plan, opposing broad use of force language, while Gulf Arab states are calling for stronger action.
US intelligence assessments have reportedly found that Iran maintains significant missile launching capability, and this is despite more than a month of heavy US-Israeli bombardment. A CNN report quoting sources said that roughly 50% of the country's drone capabilities still exist.
U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has asked the Army's top uniformed officer, General Randy George, to step down. Sources said that George has been asked to take early retirement from the post of Army's Chief of Staff, which he has held since August 2023. The ouster of George is just the latest of more than a dozen firing of top generals and admirals by Hegseth since he first took office last year.
And the USS Gerald R. Ford has departed Croatia after docking for 5 days. The ship played a major role in US-Israeli strikes on Iran, but sailed to Crete and Croatia, following a fire in its laundry facilities on March 12th. And tensions remain high around the Strait of Hormuz, with diplomatic efforts yet to deliver a resolution.
Now, the UN Security Council is set to vote on a resolution urging the Council to authorize use of force. The resolution, drafted by Bahrain with backing from Gulf Arab nations, is expected to be put to a vote, though uncertainty remains over whether further diplomacy can break the deadlock. Reports say that the efforts face opposition from veto-wielding members, China, Russia, and France.
Now, the draft resolution is in its 4th revision, following weeks of closed-door negotiations. It includes a contentious provision, and this provision would allow member states to act either independently or through multinational naval partnerships.
Earlier, a UK-led meeting of around 40 countries has ended with a strong demand for the immediate and unconditional reopening of the waterway, but without any tangible breakthrough.
British Foreign Minister Yvette Cooper said that Iran's actions in the Strait of Hormuz risk holding the global economy hostage and must not be allowed to continue. Listen to this.
Iran's reckless strikes are attacking international shipping, seeking to hijack the global economy. That's affecting petrol prices and mortgage rates here in the UK, but also jet fuel across the world, fertiliser to Africa, and also gas to Asia. So countries across the world being impacted, and that's why we're so determined to see every possible diplomatic, economic and coordinated measure to get the straits reopened.
Now, during the meeting, foreign ministers and representatives explored a range of possible coordinated actions, including increased diplomatic pressure through international platforms such as the United Nations, as well as the potential imposition of sanctions. The strategic waterway has been largely shut since the outbreak of the U.S.-Israel conflict with Iran, severely disrupting global supplies of key commodities, including oil, liquefied natural gas, and fertilizers. The fallout has triggered a sharp surge in global energy prices.
Now, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri underlined the principles of freedom of navigation and unimpeded transit at the gathering. Misri also highlighted the fact that India remains the only country to have lost Marines in the attacks on merchant shipping in the Gulf.
In a parallel development, Iran has said it is drafting a peacetime protocol with Oman to regulate maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. The proposed framework is expected to come into effect after the ongoing conflict ends, setting clear rules for the movement of vessels through the corridor.
Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Qasem Garibabadi has indicated that the draft is in its final stages internally, after which formal negotiations with Oman are expected to begin. Oman, however, has not confirmed any such talks, though its foreign minister he has previously said that the country is working intensively to ensure safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
And in his first address to the nation since the beginning of the U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran a month ago, U.S. President Donald Trump once again repeated his threat.
A threat to hit Iran's power plant if no deal is reached. Now, the big question is, how resilient is Iran's power grid under a sustained military attack? Take a look at this next report for more details.
If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously.
This is not the first time President Trump has made such a threat. He had earlier set an informal deadline with a specific 10-day pause on energy infrastructure strikes, currently set to expire on April 6th. Experts warned that destroying power grid would plunge nearly 90 million people into darkness. It will cripple Iran's hospitals, water systems and communication networks. Iran's electricity network remains overwhelmingly dependent on thermal generation. More than 95% of Iran's electricity is generated by gas and oil-fired plants. Hydropower contributes less than 5%, largely due to water limitations. In total, Iran operates around 130 thermal power stations with a combined capacity of roughly 78,000 megawatts. About 20 of these plants generate over 1,000 megawatts each, and several exceed 2,000 megawatts, forming the backbone of the national grid. Around Tehran, 5 major plants play a central role: Damavand, Rajai, Montazir Ghaim, Rodshor and Mofateh. The largest facility is the Damavand, with a capacity of about 2,900 megawatts. The next is the Neka power plant. It is located along the Caspian Sea and has a capacity of about 2,200 megawatts. The Rajai power plant also produces around 2,000 megawatts. This geographic spread is critical. It ensures that no single facility is solely responsible for generation, making it harder to cripple the system with limited strikes. Facilities like Damavand cover vast areas and consist of multiple generating units with built-in redundancies. Fully disabling one would require sustained coordinated attacks. Completely knocking out Damavand would remove only about 3.7% of Iran's total electricity capacity. Part of that loss could be offset by halting about 400 megawatts of electricity exports. Iran trades electricity with Afghanistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Iraq, Pakistan, Syria, Turkmenistan and Turkey. According to the International Energy Agency, Iran generated over 385,000 gigawatt hours of electricity in 2023. And it exported nearly 5,000 gigawatt hours. Iran has around 40.6 million electricity subscribers, including 32.3 million residential users. Hitting Iran's power infrastructure won't be an easy task for Trump and his forces. Iran has vowed a tit-for-tat response, threatening to strike energy infrastructure across the Gulf, and that would make the whole region go dark. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And in Washington, a remark by Donald Trump has drawn attention. The US president seems to be shifting the onus after joking that he would blame his own vice president if a high-stakes Iran deal fails.
As well taking credit if it succeeds. US President said he will be taking full credit if Vance manages to broker a deal with Iran and will pin the blame on Vice President if it does not happen. He might have said this jokingly, but the next thing he said was that Iran is desperate for a deal with US.
Now, the remark made during the Easter address at Washington lands at a delicate point in the war, with diplomatic efforts intensifying and no clear end in sight. At the center of those efforts is J.D. Vance.
Ever since the war began, Vance has kept a lower profile compared to Trump, but he is now emerging as a key figure in back-channel negotiations aimed at de-escalating the conflict. And according to reports, Vance has been working through intermediaries to signal that Washington is open to a ceasefire, but only if Iran meets specific conditions.
And at the same time, he has delivered a clear warning that failure to engage could trigger increased pressure on Iranian infrastructure.
Well, Trump's comments have also raised a broader question about accountability inside the White House. And this as the president has a record of sidestepping questions and throwing them at his team as crises evolve.
Deadline for Iran, is that pushed back now, or and if not?
I don't know yet. I don't know. Mr. Witkoff and JD and Jared will tell me whether or not they think it's going along. And if it's not going along, maybe not. And we have a lot of time. You know what? It's a day. In Trump time, a day, you know what it is? That's an eternity.
Well, the stakes indeed remain high for the US Vice President, with the West Asia war as a high-risk political test, one that could define his standing within the administration and beyond, especially if he seeks to run for presidency in 2028.
We need a leader who fights.
And the war in Iran is taking a heavy human toll. Emergency medical needs are surging as U.S. and Israel's aerial bombardment continues.
More than 1,900 people have been killed so far, and according to the International Federation of Red Crescent Societies, over 21,000 people have been injured since U.S. and Israel began bombing Iran. There are around 1 lakh Red Cross responders across 31 provinces in Iran. Head of the Red Cross delegation in Iran, he says that funding remains a big problem. The conflict is also taking a direct toll on aid workers. 3 Red Cross responders have been killed in the line of duty since late February.
I've heard stories from volunteers. One of them that went on a search and rescue operation to find out his family was under the rubble. Can you imagine the shock? Can you imagine the level of despair and sadness?
Logistical bottlenecks are adding to the trouble. Shipping routes are disrupted amid tensions in the Strait of Hormuz. Trauma kits for life-threatening injuries are stuck in Dubai for weeks.
Now, as many as 3 million people have been displaced inside the country. But there are growing fears about strikes on Iran's critical infrastructure. US President has said that American forces will strike Iran to the Stone Ages if critical infrastructure comes under attack. Humanitarian crisis in Iran could deepen further. And US President Donald Trump has fired Attorney General Pam Bondi on Thursday.
And this is following months of strained relations, and the move signals a change in leadership at the Justice Department. Trump has appointed his former personal lawyer to serve as the acting chief of the Justice Department. And according to reports, he's likely to name former Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, to be the next Attorney General.
Trump took to Truth Social and announced his decision while thanking Bondi for his service and highlighting her tenure. At the Justice Department, he further added that Bondi will transition to a position in the private sector, while Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche will take over as acting Attorney General.
In a post on X, Bondi responded to the developments. She wrote that she will spend the next month overseeing the transition of the Justice Department to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche before moving to a new role in the private sector. She also expressed her gratitude to Trump for the opportunity to serve, adding that she will continue to support the administration in her next position.
This major step by US President comes amid criticism of Pam Bondi's handling of the Epstein files, with allegations that she mismanaged or restricted the release of records from the Justice Department's sex trafficking investigations. She has also faced scrutiny for her alleged inability to bring prosecutions in several cases involving individuals who are seen as political opponents of the president.
Now, Hungary is heading for a high-stakes election on April 12th.
And as the campaigning enters the final stretch, the political narratives are being hardened by both candidates. Our country's longtime leader, Viktor Orban, is taking a Eurosceptic stance, while his challenger, Peter Magyar, is pitching for a Eurocentric approach. Now, from Brussels to Kiev, elections in Hungary are being closely watched by European capitals. Viktor Orban's return would mean more trouble for Ukraine and a rogue ally for Brussels. Orban has been blocking European Union's funding measures for Ukraine.
The longtime leader has been accusing Kiev for meddling in the elections. He blames Zelensky of interfering Hungary's elections for a friendly government. Orban had designed his campaign around anti-Ukraine agenda. He's asking Hungarians to choose between peace and war. Orban is looking for a fifth term after serving as Hungary's prime minister since 2010.
But this time he is facing a tough challenge from centrist candidate Peter Magyar, who is campaigning on a more liberal platform. He and Orban are poles apart in their stance on various issues, including LGBTQ rights, relations with Brussels and war on Ukraine. According to polls, Magyar has a greater chance of pulling off a victory against Orban. The centrist candidate is maintaining a 10-point lead against the incumbent prime minister.
I'm really worried about which one would be better and which one I should vote for. I don't know yet. I'll keep racking my brain about it until then. I'm afraid of war, that's for sure.
Concerns are also mounting on the political climate in Hungary. A delegation from the Council of Europe has expressed alarm over what they call a toxic climate ahead of the elections in Hungary. The Council of Europe acts as a guardian of human rights and democracy across the continent.
A 2,500-year-old Romanian treasure, the priceless helmet of Cotopaxi has been dramatically recovered after a daring museum heist in the Netherlands.
And authorities say key clues from detained suspects led to the discovery of the stolen artifact, hailed as some of Romania's most significant pieces of treasure. Here's a report. Take a look.
Today, I saw how deeply moved, happy, relieved and grateful my colleagues were when I told them that the helmet and 2 bracelets have been found. We can hardly imagine what this must feel like in Romania. For our colleagues at the National History Museum in Bucharest and for all Romanians. It is wonderful that the helmet and 2 of the bracelets, of the 3 bracelets, are now returning to where they belong.
All right, and with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break on World DNA.
Well, don't go anywhere. If you lost, signed up on the other side. Artemis 2 astronauts have fired their engines to zoom towards the moon after spending a day around Earth. Artemis 2 mission will be the first crewed moonshot in more than 50 years. We'll get you all the details on that on the other side. Keep watching me on World is One.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
If God created the world, then AI is making its digital clone. Adventures in sci-fi, movies made by AI. a tow truck to clear space junk, robots running old age care homes. A mobile lab mapping climate change still needs a human in the driver's seat, but is it only a matter of time before AI takes the wheel? All these stories and more coming up on this episode of Tech It Out at these times.
5 states, one powerful voice. From Tamil Nadu to West Bengal. Kerala to Assam. Every vote shapes the future. Get the election pulse only on WION. Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
breaking news.
And raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. The WION World is one. In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is one. Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
breaking news.
And raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. The WION World is one. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
breaking news.
And raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. The WION World is one. 5 states, one powerful voice. From Tamil Nadu to West Bengal. Kerala to Assam. Every vote shapes the future. Get the election pulse only on WION. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION The World this one. This is World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar, and my colleague Diksha Bisla. Let's begin with the headlines.
Iran says at least 8 people have died while nearly 100 are injured after US military struck a bridge connecting Karaj to Tehran. President Trump earlier boasted about the attack, warning Tehran that there was much more to follow.
Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched fresh wave of attacks on American steel factories in the UAE and Bahrain, as well as an arms factory in Israel. Iran says latest salvos are in response to attacks on its own steel industries.
Pentagon says Army Chief of Staff General Randy George is retiring from his position. The announcement came after reports emerged that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth had asked George to leave his post.
U.S. President Donald Trump fires Attorney General Pam Bondi. Her deputy Todd Blanche, Trump's former lawyer, will step in to serve as acting Attorney General.
Artemis 2 astronauts fired their engines to zoom towards the moon after spending a day around Earth. The Orion capsule engine blasted the astronauts towards the moon, which they will now loop as part of the 10-day mission.
JP Morgan is warning that oil prices could top $150 a barrel if supply disruptions through the Strait of Hormuz continue into mid-May. The bank says sustained high prices could keep crude well above $100 and weigh on the global economy.
A new chapter in space exploration has begun. 4 astronauts on the Artemis 2 mission are now zooming towards the moon.
And this means that human beings have left Earth orbit for the first time since 1972. Here's a report that gives you more details. Take a look.
Fire and thunder rip through the sky.
Now bound for the moon.
A blinding column of light lifts off the launch pad. The ground trembles. For a moment, all eyes lock on a single point rising into the clouds. This is Artemis 2 mission in motion. The spacecraft carrying NASA astronauts blasted off, beginning a 10-day journey that will take humans farther than they have traveled in decades. The mission will loop around the far side of the moon, a region never directly seen from Earth before returning home. It is not just a flight, it is a test, a rehearsal for landing humans on the moon again. Inside the capsule, the crew prepares for proximity operations near the lunar surface. Every maneuver is critical. Systems are being pushed, checked, and refined. The goal is precision, the goal is confidence for what comes next. On the ground, thousands gathered along the Florida coastline. Families, students, engineers, veterans of the space age. As the rocket climbed, cheers broke out.
Oh, this is amazing. It just went up fantastic. It was everything I expected it was going to be and look like. Expected the sound to be a little bit louder, but it was an amazing launch.
Today, just to experience just everybody's excitement about it, to see the launch itself, and just the historic moment of sending people back.
The excitement was also shared by the White House.
let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis 2. It was quite something.
NASA's broader Artemis program, valued at around $93 billion, is designed to do more than revisit the moon. It aims to build a sustained human presence, test deep space technologies, and prepare for missions to Mars. Post-launch, NASA shared that the mission is going as per the plans.
The spacecraft has successfully separated from the core stage, and its solar arrays have been deployed as planned. Soon the crew will execute the apogee raise burn, placing the spacecraft into a stable, high Earth orbit as we prepare for the translunar injection and the journey into cislunar space.
The far side of the moon holds particular interest. Its surface is older, less explored, and shielded from Earth's radio noise. Scientists hope it could reveal clues about the early solar system and even the origins of the universe. For now, the spacecraft continues its silent arc through space, 10 days, thousands of kilometers, one mission carrying decades of expectation. The moon is no longer a memory, it is once again a destination.
Now in Washington, a remark by Donald Trump has drawn attention.
The US president seems to be shifting the onus after joking that he would blame his own vice president if a high-stakes Iran deal fails, and while taking credit if it succeeds. US President said that he will be taking full credit if Vance manages to broker a deal with Iran, and will pin the blame on vice president if it does not happen. He might have said this jokingly, but the next thing he said was that Iran is desperate for a deal with the United States.
The remark made during the Easter address at Washington lands at a delicate point in the war, with diplomatic efforts intensifying and no clear end in sight. At the center of those efforts is J.D. Vance.
Now, ever since the war began, Vance has kept a lower profile as compared to Trump. But he is now emerging as a key figure in back-channel negotiations, which are aimed at de-escalating the conflict. According to reports, Vance has been working through intermediaries to signal that Washington is open to a ceasefire, but only if Iran meets specific conditions.
And at the same time, he has delivered a clear warning that failure could engage could trigger increased pressure on Iranian infrastructure. Trump's comments have also raised a broader question about accountability inside the White House. And this as the president has a record of sidestepping questions and throwing them at his team as crises evolve.
Deadline for Iran, is that pushed back now, or and if not?
I don't know yet. I don't know. Mr. Witkoff and JD and Jared will tell me whether or not they think it's going along. And if it's not going along, maybe not. And we have a lot of time. You know what? It's a day. In Trump time, a day, you know what it is? That's an eternity.
The stakes indeed remain high for the United States Vice President, but the West Asia war is a high-risk political test, one that could define his standing within the administration and beyond, especially if he seeks to run for presidency in 2028.
We need a leader.
The Houthi rebels officially joined the fray alongside Iran in Hezbollah.
And of course, this is with the Strait of Hormuz already choked into a stranglehold. The rebels have issued a chilling ultimatum now. If the Gulf states interfere, the Red Sea becomes the next global headache. Now, here's a report that gives you more details. Take a look.
A narrow waterway, endless cargo ships, a lifeline of global trade. The Red Sea corridor carries oil, goods, and geopolitical weight. For now, it flows. But the threat to choke it is growing louder. Yemen's Houthi movement has issued a stark warning. If Gulf nations join the Iran war, the group says it could move to shut down a key Red Sea passage. The focus is the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, one of the world's most critical maritime choke points. The message is direct. Join the war and the sea will burn. The Houthis, aligned with Iran, have fired 3 missiles targeting Israel.
Our armed forces, with the help of Allah Almighty and in reliance upon Him, carried out the 3rd military operation in the Holy Jihad battle, which targeted, with a salvo of ballistic missiles, sensitive targets of the Israeli enemy in southern occupied Palestine.
Now, the threat is expanding beyond missiles. It is about control of sea lanes. The Bab al-Mandab connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Eden and is vital for global shipping. Any disruption here could force vessels to reroute around Africa, driving up costs and delaying supply chains worldwide. With Hormuz already under Iranian control, a Houthi-led closure of the Red Sea would effectively cut off the Suez Canal. The world's economy would be further crippled. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And Republicans have brokered an agreement to end the longest partial government shutdown in U.S. history.
Well, the shutdown has left Department of Homeland Security without fresh funds. A new joint proposal agreed by Senate and House Republicans could pave the way to fund DHS employees along with aviation security personnel. Now, the agreement will restore funding for DHS, barring agencies which are involved in Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. ICE and Customs and Border Protection will be funded through a separate measure. The agreement resembles the proposal agreed upon by Democrats in the Senate a few days ago.
Republican lawmakers are planning to fund Trump's immigration crackdown agencies via a special measure called budget reconciliation. Now, this will bypass the usual requirement of 60 votes in the Senate and open path for a long-term funding for ICE.
Now, following the announcement by Mike Johnson and John Thune, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer claimed victory. He accused ruling party of delaying the agreement due to infighting.
Now, Democrats have opposed Trump's immigration crackdown. The disagreements widened after 2 U.S. citizens were killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis earlier. Now, the proposal will now be voted in both chambers of Congress. U.S. President Donald Trump has asked the bill to be on his table for final approval by 1st of June.
And Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has visited the central city of Jos. This is days after a deadly attack that occurred on Palm Sunday.
Now, that incident had killed at least 30 people, and during his visit, he promised to extend all of the support for the families of the victims and immediate deployment of over 5,000 security cameras to boost security in the state. He also vowed that such an incident will not happen again.
Following the attack, President reportedly postponed a long-planned trip elsewhere in the country to go to Jos. Now, critics and some of the citizens have called the move politically motivated, expressing skepticism that it won't yield any outcome and such attacks will continue to happen.
Now, Jos is home to a diverse population of Christians and Muslims. While many residents coexist peacefully, the city has a history of ethnic and religious tensions that have previously erupted into deadly sectarian violence. On Palm Sunday, unidentified gunmen opened fire in and around a bar in the city of Jos.
The attack sparked a social media storm over claims that Christians were specifically targeted. However, reports indicate that the victims included members of both religious communities. An investigation into the incident is underway, and police have said that they have identified several suspects.
Now, the National Investigation Agency will now investigate the violence in Malda district of West Bengal, where 7 judicial officers were allegedly taken hostage by a mob.
Well, these judicial officers were adjudicating cases of special intensive revision of electoral polls. Earlier, the Supreme Court had taken serious note of the matter. The court had termed it deplorable and sought responses from the State Home Secretary, Director General of Police and other officials for their inaction.
The court further said the incident was a brazen attempt not only to browbeat the judicial officers, but also amounted to a challenge to the authority of the Supreme Court. The top court gave the order after it took suo motu cognizance of a letter from the Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court. 7 judicial officers who had gone in that district in Malda for judicial adjudication work were hit out by a mob for several hours. The police had to rescue the officials late on Wednesday night.
The global energy market is under pressure as the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed.
While gasoline prices in the U.S. have hit $4 a gallon, oil prices are soaring and stock markets are tumbling. President Donald Trump has floated a controversial plan when he delivered his national address: pull U.S. forces out and let other countries handle the strait, raising questions about long-term energy security. The president said, and I'm quoting him here, "We don't have to be there. We don't need their oil. We don't need anything they have. We're there to help our allies."
Now, previously, Trump told the New York Post that the Strait of Hormuz will automatically open once the U.S. exits the war. Adding, "Go get your own oil," he said that gas prices would fall soon when the U.S. leave. Experts warn that a U.S. exit without reopening the Strait of Hormuz could create long-term problems, even if oil prices drop temporarily.
And analysts warn that if Iran remains in control of the Strait of Hormuz, it could target vessels and impose transit fees, keeping oil prices elevated. Former Energy Secretary Dan Brulett called the idea highly problematic for the U.S. The strait is critical. It carries about 20% of the world's oil.
Now, even the U.S., pumping a record 13.6 million barrels per day, imports significant crude and refined products, particularly along the east and west coasts.
Now, analysts warn that continued closure would push global buyers to U.S. barrels, potentially rising domestic fuel prices. Gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel shortages could follow in regions like California and New York. Geopolitical risks add a premium to oil prices worldwide, keeping markets nervous.
Trump has signaled multiple times that reopening the strait is a priority, even threatening to target Iranian infrastructure if it remains closed, including oil wells, Kharg Island, and potentially desalination plants.
Well, until the Strait of Hormuz reopens, the global energy market remains vulnerable. Prices could stay elevated, supply chains disrupted, and Americans could continue paying more at the pump, underscoring how interconnected global energy security has now become. And China's Commerce Ministry has said it supports cross-border business and technology deals.
But only if they comply with Chinese law. Now, the remark comes amid scrutiny of Meta's $2 billion acquisition of Chinese AI startup Manus, China's Commerce Ministry spokesperson. He Yadong made the comments in response to questions about Meta's purchase of Manus. The statement comes after reports that Chinese authorities have barred 2 Manus co-founders from leaving the country as regulators review whether the deal violated investment and technology export rules.
Now, according to reports, Manus Chief Executive Xiao Hong and Chief Scientist Ji Chao were summoned to Beijing and later informed they could not leave China while the review is underway. And they are, however, still allowed to travel within the country. The $2 billion deal was announced by Meta in December last year as part of its push to develop advanced AI agents capable of performing complex tasks such as research, automation, and coding.
Chinese regulators are now examining whether the company transferred sensitive AI technology abroad. without required government approval, and officials are also looking into whether Manus properly reported ownership changes after the company relocated from Beijing to Singapore ahead of the Meta deal. The review has raised broader questions about cross-border AI acquisitions as governments increasingly test advanced AI technology as a strategic asset. All right, now shifting our focus to the world of tennis, where former world number one Iga Swiatek is struggling for consistency.
And as appointed, Rafael Nadal's former coach Francisco Ruig in a bid to rediscover her form. It has been a disappointing season so far for the Pole, who has not progressed beyond the quarterfinal stage yet. Swiatek decided she needed a reset after being knocked out of the Miami Open last month. She subsequently parted ways with Wim Fissette. Swiatek is a six-time Grand Slam champion, with 4 of those titles coming at Roland Garros. With the clay court season approaching, she will be keen to return to her best after a series of setbacks. Looking for a fresh start, Swiatek has now brought in Francisco.
Well, the Spaniard is best known for his long association with Rafael Nadal, having spent 17 years as part of his coaching team and contributing to all 22 of Nadal's Grand Slam titles. Ruig left Nadal's team in 2022 before going on to coach Italy's Matteo Berrettini between 2023 and 2024. He also had a brief stint with Emma Raducanu, which ended due to differences in playing styles despite early positive signs. The pair's first assignment together will be the Stuttgart Open, which begins on April 11th.
An Indian actor Ranbir Kapoor's first glimpse as Lord Ram in Ramayana has got cinephiles talking.
While the teaser has sparked a conversation about the film's budget and VFX, many are also anticipating the spectacle to be one of Kapoor's most memorable performances.
But he isn't the first actor to play the role of Lord Ram. He, in fact, is his great-grandfather, Prithviraj Kapoor, portrayed the iconic character on the big screen in 1933. Titled Sita, the film was directed by Debaki Bose and featured the legendary cinema icon as Lord Ram. The film was produced by East India Film Company.
It emerged as a landmark Bengali talkie that went on to achieve global recognition. Among its many laurels, the movie also earned an honorary diploma at the Venice International Film Festival in 1934. The film also starred Durga Kote as Sita, alongside actors like Gul Hamid and Trilok Kapoor.
Now, while this marks a full-circle moment for Kapoor's, which is widely regarded as the first family of Indian cinema, the epic has been retold on screen on several occasions, and many other actors have portrayed the role of Lord Ram.
Arun Govil's performance is regarded as the definitive portrayal of Lord Ram in Ramnan Sagar's 1987 Ramayana. He also played the role in Jai Maa Vaishno Devi.
In 1997 film Bala Ramayanam, Junior NTR appeared as young Lord Ram in the Telugu movie. In Love Kush, veteran actor Jitendra also brought the iconic character to life on screen.
Now, as for filmmakers, Nitesh Tiwari's grand retelling of the epic, the film's team unveiled the teaser on the occasion of Hanuman Jayanti. The film boasts a powerful ensemble cast including Sai Pallavi as Sita, Yash as Ravana, and Sunny Deol as Hanuman. The film will release in 2 parts, with the first installment slated for Diwali 2026, followed by Ramayana Part 2 on Diwali 2027.
All right, with that, we call a wrap to World Data for today. News and updates will be following on the other side of a very short break. Keep watching Beyond World is Fun.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words.
backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Freewheeling down the Malabar coast and riding the ferry across town, Mirage explores a historic city in the new Tata Punch EV. Spread across spice warehouses, galleries, hangars, and islands around, the People's Biennale is all about the here and now. In Delhi, Diksha does a double take of Hyundai's Creta and Line. All this and more coming up on WION Drive this week at these times.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Beyond the noise and rhetoric, no election, no ballot issue too small. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. More than just headlines. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power. Only on WION. World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness. Five states, one powerful voice. From Tamil Nadu to West Bengal. Kerala to Assam. Every vote shapes the future. Yet the election pulse only on WION.